There was no one thing that made me decide to become a lawyer. It really was a journey. When I left high school, my intention was to be an artist, to become an illustrator. And I actually went to school for art. I attended an art school in Brooklyn briefly for one semester. But art school is very expensive, or at least the one I went to was very expensive, and I couldn't afford to finish. So I left and came back home after my first semester, and I joined the military. My intent was to get money for college and then head back to art school. And I was actually tank crewman, which means I was one of 4 people on a battle tank, which was a pretty different life than being in art school. When I joined the Army, I was first stationed in Fort Stewart, Georgia, but I deployed over to Kuwait. It was a non-combat mission. We, at that time at least, kept the force over in Kuwait, and I was part of the rotation in and out of that mission. So I was in Kuwait for about 4 or 5 months. We actually got extended at the end. We went there during the summer, and we were supposed to leave just before Christmas. But at that time, this was 1998. The country actually ended up bombing Saddam Hussein, or the country of Iraq at that time, so we were extended a little more. That definitely was part of why I really changed directions when I got out of the military, because I had just experienced so many different things, and I was much more aware of the world, but also not sure what I wanted to do in it. So after 3 years on active duty, I came back home to Florida, and I was still in the military. I was in the Florida National Guard. I took on a new role as a legal specialist in the Army. So I actually started working. It was my first contact with any kind of legal work. Particularly, I got familiar with the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which really taught me about learning the elements of different actions that might be taken against a soldier, and I had to prepare documents for that regard. So that was really my first taste through the military. But by the time I got out of the military, I was just a different person, and I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do next. So I spent a lot of time in the corporate world, working for nonprofits, and in particular in the social services. And it was in the social services that I started working with a lot of lawyers. I was working with kids in foster care and on a grant for veterans, and I got a chance to see lawyers in the courtroom doing their job and really working on behalf of people and making a difference and making an impact in a lot of people's lives. And as I watched these people, I began to think that it was something that I could do and that I could do well. So it was really kind of a slow progression towards it. But I eventually took the tests, went to law school, and found what I really wanted to do. I started my own law firm. It's interesting. I started it during COVID. I knew that when I went to law school, part of why I went is because I wanted to build something of my own. I wanted that challenge for myself and that experience. And I felt that if I didn't do it, take that leap when I did, I might never have done it. It's been great. 3 years later, we're still here and growing. I specialize in personal injury, criminal defense, and business litigation. The personal injury practice usually ranges anywhere from a minor automotive accident all the way up to what could be a wrongful death, someone who's lost their life as a result of someone else's negligence. Criminal defense, I tend to handle cases that range from battery all the way through kidnapping or other crimes that could land someone in jail for the rest of their life. And in my business litigation practice, I handle a lot of contract disputes, oftentimes advising folks on how to start a business or incorporate a business, helping them review contract documents, partnership agreements, anything within that range. Probably the main thrust of my practice, though, is trial work. In criminal defense and personal injury, I get the most opportunities to work as a lawyer in trial, which was my passion, what I found when I went to law school. High school, my intent was to be a storyteller, as I told you, through art. So this is just another form of storytelling to me, helping to tell my clients' stories to juries in a way that is clear and lucid and persuasive. And it's something that I thoroughly enjoyed doing. Never gets old for me. The moment that I stand in front of a jury to do an opening statement or to close a case, I think are probably the best parts of my experience as a lawyer. There's a lot of work that goes into getting to that point, but trial work is my passion. And I actually coach new trial lawyers at my alma mater. I went to the Florida International University College of Law, and I each year take part as a coach, coaching our trial team. I used to be a member of that trial team, very proud of it. So I think one thing I would say that encompasses all parts of my practice as a general advice I would give to folks who are thinking about whether or not they need a lawyer is, if the situation you're confronting has serious implications for your liberty or for your livelihood, it is probably worth it to invest in at least a consultation, which is usually just your time. Many lawyers will offer consultations for free. It is worth that investment to find out exactly what your options are. Oftentimes, whether it be in my personal injury practice, criminal defense practice, or my business litigation practice, clients come to me after they've already made several significant decisions in their case that have implications for the case well into the future. And you present that to a lawyer, it means it's probably going to be more expensive to handle your case and more complicated. So the earlier you make the decision to seek the right consultation, the better off you're probably going to be. One of the last significant trials that I had was towards the end of 2022. It was a criminal case where my client was facing serious life. And because of the type of charges and the nature of his case, the minimum he was facing was 50 years in prison. And there was just a moment in that trial just before I had to deliver a cross-examination of the state's key witness. I had put together, this massive outline of the cross-examination. This was actually the third time we were trying this case. There had been 2 mistrials. And while I was preparing, I think we were in the cafeteria in the courthouse, I just scrapped that whole outline. I just felt like in that moment, everything I'd learned as a member of my law school's trial team and every other trial since, just felt like it came together in that moment. And I think I jotted down 4 or 5 bullet points that went in there, and I think I did one of the most significant cross-examinations of my career. And it ended up turning a case that I think most people who looked at it thought was pretty bleak for my client. And we ended up saving him from life in prison. One thing that often comes up with new clients, regardless of what area of practice, I think, clients want a level of certainty of what an outcome might be. And I think a good lawyer will be able to provide you with various scenarios based on the facts of your specific case of what could happen. But I think no lawyer can predict with any level of certainty how a case will turn out. I don't care how good they are or how long they've been practicing. What a good lawyer can guarantee is that he or she is going to do everything in their power to make sure they uncover every fact and every piece of evidence that can help build your case and take it in the direction that is most favorable for you. So what happened to my eye actually is related to an eye illness. I have had a series of retinal detachments in both of my eyes, even though only one of them I think looks fairly noticeable as something's going on there. But I had a series of retinal detachments. The first one actually happened while I was in law school. I was sitting in a constitutional law class in the evening. I went to law school in the evenings and worked in the day. All of a sudden in my right eye, it looked like someone just blew a puff of black smoke into my eye. It just moved like a wisp. And I knew that wasn't good. So I went to my doctor and found out that it was a retinal detachment, which required surgical intervention. It was the first of several. Actually, my left eye then had a detachment the following semester. And over the course of the following 10 years, there was a series of surgeries and complications and back and forth in the summer of 2021. And I was categorized as what's called low vision. And what that means is, while I can see, my vision cannot be corrected to 20/20 with surgery or with lenses. So it's created challenges, obviously, but what I learned over time is that I'm pretty resilient. And I happen to have a very good support network in my family and my friends. And this happened to occur in a time when technology is pretty capable enough to help me live independently and perform a job that is very demanding. And I think what also has happened that by nature I have to be innovative. I have to come up with different solutions and different approaches to things. When I'm in a courtroom, how I approach examinations, how I prepare for anything that I do, there has to be a lot of advanced planning, forethought, and innovation to make sure that I'm able to deliver top quality representation to my clients. And I think that kind of thinking out of the box necessity to be innovative is just an asset to my clients that may not necessarily exist in every other attorney because it's not required of them to live a normal life.